My sister slept with every man I ever invited into my heart, systematically dismantling my life piece by piece, until the day I introduced her to my new boyfriend, a man who happened to be the ruthless divorce attorney who had represented her ex-husband. My name is Elena, and before we descend into the wreckage of this family, I need you to internalize one absolute truth. I am not the villain of this narrative. For 28 years, I played the role of the martyr, the responsible shadow, the one who swept up the broken glass and buried the secrets that would make a normal person sick to their stomach. But 3 months ago, staring into the harsh, unforgiving light of a bathroom mirror at my mother's 60th birthday party, something inside me finally snapped. I was finished. I was done watching my sister Sienna incinerate everything I tried to build from the ashes of her own insecurity. The party was thumping downstairs, a bass-heavy rhythm vibrating through the floorboards, but cutting through the music was a sound that haunted my nightmares. Her laugh. It was a specific, manufactured sound, high-pitched, breathy, with a little hitch at the end designed to make a man feel like the wittiest creature on earth. I knew the cadence of that laugh better than my own heartbeat, because I had heard it directed at 7 different men I had brought home over the last decade. 7. I splashed freezing water onto my face, watching the mascara bleed down my cheeks like war paint. I had just walked in on Sienna in the detached garage with Caleb. Caleb, whom I had been seeing for 6 months. Caleb, who had whispered promises of a shared future just weeks ago. Caleb, who was currently pinned between my father's workbench and the chrome bumper of a vintage Mustang, with my sister's hands exploring territory that was supposed to be mine. That was the moment the old Elena died. I dried my face, reapplied my armor of makeup, and walked back downstairs with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. By the next morning, I had already begun to dig the grave for her ego. But to understand the magnitude of the retribution, you have to understand the history of the war. Sienna is 2 years my junior, a genetic lottery winner with sun-bleached blonde hair, eyes the color of sea glass, and a physique that she maintained with infuriating ease. In contrast, I inherited our father's brooding features and our mother's propensity to carry stress in my hips. But the tragedy wasn't the physical disparity, it was the weaponization of it. No one warns you that having a beautiful sister can be a curse when that beauty is wielded like a scythe. The first casualty was a boy named Liam when I was 19.
He was my first love, the kind that feels like it would last forever in the naive haze of adolescence. We were planning a summer road trip, mapping out a constellation of memories we hadn't made yet. Then I came home early from a library shift to find the air in my dorm room heavy with the scent of betrayal. They were in my bed. Sienna wept, claiming intoxication, claiming confusion, claiming Liam had manipulated her. Liam said nothing, just fled into the night like a thief. My parents, the eternal peacemakers, forced me to swallow the poison. "She's your sister," my mother had pleaded, her voice trembling. "Blood is forever. Boys are just seasons." I was 21 when it happened with Daniel, 23 with Josh, 24 with a man named Ryan. After Ryan, I learned silence. I stopped speaking their names. I compartmentalized my life, keeping my romantic interests in a fortress away from her gaze. It didn't matter. She was a bloodhound for my happiness. She always found the scent. And the most devastating part? They all fell for it. Men who swore they loved my mind, my spirit, my heart. They would trade it all for a single night of physical validation from my baby sister. By 26, I had essentially taken a vow of celibacy, throwing myself into the corporate grinder of tech marketing. It was safer there. Numbers didn't cheat. Spreadsheets didn't have wandering eyes. It was a perfect excuse to miss the Sunday dinners where Sienna would hold court, basking in the adoration of a family that refused to see her pathology. Then she married Nathan. Honestly, my heart broke for him the moment they met. He was a gentle soul, an IT architect, quiet and unassuming, who looked at Sienna as if she were a deity who had deigned to walk among mortals. I wanted to shake him, to scream the truth into his face. But what could I say? Run, Nathan, because she will consume you? They lasted 3 years. The divorce was a spectacle of cruelty. Nathan had climbed the corporate ladder, bought them a stunning colonial in a gated community, and provided everything she asked for. But Sienna got bored. She began an affair with his superior,
a married man with a family of his own. When Nathan discovered the betrayal, it didn't just break his heart, it broke his spirit. I saw him once, shortly after she moved out, sitting in a cafe staring at a cold cup of coffee, looking like a man who had aged a decade in a month. The legal battle was scorched earth. Sienna demanded half of everything, including assets he had acquired before the marriage. She wanted alimony, she wanted his pension, she wanted blood. But Nathan hired a shark, a lawyer named Julian Thorne. I didn't follow the details closely because Sienna had cut me off, furious that I wouldn't perjure myself to paint Nathan as a monster.
6 months ago, the gavel fell. Nathan kept the house. Sienna walked away with a fraction of what she felt entitled to and moved back into our parents' guest room, bringing her toxicity home. That brings us back to the garage, to Caleb, and to the bathroom mirror. The aftermath of the party was a blur of suppressed rage. I didn't scream, I didn't throw things. I simply executed a Google search. Trevor Morrison, divorce attorney. It took seconds to find him. Julian Thorne of Thorne & Associates, a boutique firm specializing in high net worth dissolution. His website featured a portrait of a man in his mid-30s, dark hair, eyes that looked like they missed nothing, and a smile that was professional yet guarded. He was perfect. I called on Monday. The receptionist fit me in that afternoon. His office was a fortress of glass and steel in the financial district, the kind of place that smelled of mahogany and expensive decisions. When Julian walked into the conference room, he was more imposing than his photo. He moved with the fluid confidence of a man who knew the law was a weapon he knew how to wield better than anyone else. "Miss Vance," he said, his handshake firm. "How can I assist you?" I sat across from him, my hands clasped to stop them from shaking. "This is going to sound unorthodox," I began, "but I don't need legal advice in the traditional sense." He raised a single skeptical eyebrow. "I'm listening." "You represented my former brother-in-law, Nathan. My sister is Sienna Vance, formerly Morrison." His face hardened instantly, a professional mask slamming down. "I cannot discuss a client's case, Miss Vance." "I don't want you to," I interjected quickly. "I want to hire you for a performance." I laid it out, the years of theft, the pattern, Caleb, the garage, the bathroom mirror. "What are you proposing?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "I want you to be my boyfriend. I want to bring you into the lion's den. I want to introduce you to Sienna, and I want to see what she does." He leaned back, studying me like a deposition. "You want to entrap her." "I want to expose her," I corrected. "I want my family to see her without the filters. And," I paused, weighing my leverage, "I have a feeling you might have your own reasons for wanting to see her humbled." His jaw tightened, a microscopic crack in his armor. "Why would you assume that?" "Because I saw what she did to Nathan, and I'm guessing you saw the depths of her malice too." Julian remained silent for a long beat, the hum of the city filtering through the glass. Finally, he spoke. "What is the timeline?" We spent the next 2 weeks choreographing our deception. Julian was meticulous, treating this not as a prank, but as a strategic operation. He learned the family history, the triggers, the dynamics.
The goal, I explained, is undeniable proof. Once they see her attempt to seduce my boyfriend, a man she doesn't know as her ex-husband's savior, under their own roof, the denial will have to shatter. "Are you prepared for the collateral damage?" he asked one evening. "This will nuke the bridge, Elena." "The bridge is already burning," I replied. "I'm just tired of choking on the smoke." We launched the relationship on social media first. A photo of 2 coffee cups, a shadow of a man in a leather jacket, the breadcrumbs of intimacy. My mother called within 24 hours, predictably ecstatic that her spinster daughter had a prospect. She demanded his presence at Sunday dinner. Julian picked me up in a sleek black sedan, dressed down in designer denim and a button-down that accentuated his athletic build. He looked approachable, yet undeniably high status. Catnip for Sienna. "Ready?" he asked. "No, let's go." My mother greeted him with a suffocating hug, ushering us into the foyer where the air already felt thin. And there was Sienna, draped across the sofa like a lounging feline, nursing a glass of Chardonnay. I watched the recognition of prey hit her eyes. She stood, smoothing a dress that was too tight for a Sunday dinner, and approached. "I'm Sienna," she purred, extending a hand. "The baby sister." Julian took it, his smile polite,
the temperature of the room dropping a few degrees only for those paying attention. "Nice to meet you. Elena has mentioned you." "Has she?" Her eyes flicked to me, cold and assessing. "I hope she didn't bore you with stories." "On the contrary," Julian said, his voice smooth as velvet. "She's fascinating." Dinner was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Sienna positioned herself directly across from Julian. Every time she spoke, she leaned forward, offering a view down her neckline. She laughed at his mundane comments with that breathless, hitching cackle. She played with her hair, exposing her neck, performing the ancient rituals of seduction. My parents were oblivious, blindfolded by their own desire for a happy family tableau. Julian was perfect, attentive to me, polite to her, but revealing nothing of his true identity or his past connection to her life. When dessert was served, I excused myself, leaving them alone in the dining room. "She's already moving pieces on the board," Julian whispered to me when I returned. She touched my knee under the table. "I know," I said, my stomach twisting. "She's escalating." By the time we left, Sienna had managed to extract his phone number under the guise of family emergency contacts and adding him to the group chat. In the car, Julian exhaled deeply. "Your sister is a predator. Tell me something I don't know." "She texted me before we even backed out of the driveway," he said, holding up his phone. The screen read, "You're too intense for Elena. She breaks easily. Let me know if you want to know the real stories."
For 3 weeks, the digital assault was relentless. Sienna bombarded Julian with memes, selfies, and accidental FaceTimes. She critiqued me to him, painting me as unstable, jealous, and fragile. Julian documented every pixel. We met at his office to review the evidence, building a dossier of betrayal. During one of these sessions, Julian opened a locked drawer. "You asked why I agreed to this," he said, pulling out a thick file. "During the divorce, Sienna tried to destroy my career. She filed a complaint with the Bar Association, alleging I manufactured evidence to help Nathan. It was baseless, but it dragged my reputation through the mud for months. I watched her dismantle Nathan, a good man who was suicidal by the time he came to me. So yes, Elena, I have skin in this game." The revelation shifted something between us. We weren't just co-conspirators, we were survivors of the same hurricane. "The end game," he said, his eyes locking with mine, "is your parents' anniversary party next month. That's the stage." We accelerated the romance. More posts, more intimacy. I posted a picture of us cooking, the caption reading, "Found the one." Sienna's reaction was immediate and desperate. She texted Julian, "We need to talk, alone." He agreed to meet her for coffee, wearing a wire, metaphorically speaking. He came to my apartment afterward, looking drained. "She made the pitch," he said, loosening his tie. "She told me you were emotionally damaged. She put her hand on my thigh and said she knows what it's like to feel unappreciated by this family. She offered herself as a sympathetic ear." "Did she explicitly proposition you?" "She said, 'If you ever want to know what a real woman feels like, you know where I live.'" I felt the nausea rise, but Julian's hand on my shoulder anchored me. "We have her, Elena. One more push." But in the quiet moments of planning, the lines began to blur. We spent hours talking, not about Sienna, but about books, fears, dreams. I realized with a jolt of panic that I wasn't acting anymore. And looking at the way Julian watched me when he thought I wasn't looking, I suspected he wasn't either. The night of the anniversary party, the air was electric with impending doom. The venue was a cliffside event space, the ocean crashing below like a chaotic soundtrack. I wore an emerald green dress that fit like a second skin, armor for the final battle. "You look dangerous," Julian said, his eyes darkening as he picked me up. "Good." We arrived late, commanding attention. Sienna was there, wearing white, a choice that screamed narcissism at someone else's anniversary. She zeroed in on Julian like a heat-seeking missile. We circulated, playing the happy couple, but I saw her hovering, waiting for her window. When the band took a break, she struck. I watched from across the room as she intercepted Julian, whispering something in his ear. He nodded and followed her out to the darkened balcony. I gave them 30 seconds. Then I followed. The balcony was shadowed, the wind whipping our hair. Sienna had him cornered against the railing, her body pressed uncomfortably close to his. I stayed in the doorway, a phantom. "I've been wanting to tell you," she was saying, her voice low and sultry. "Elena isn't right for you. She's weak. She's always been the jealous one, living in my shadow." "Is that so?" Julian asked, his voice devoid of emotion. "You need someone who can match your fire," she purred, her hand sliding up his chest.
someone who takes what she wants. Like you? Exactly like me. I stepped into the light. I knew you were low, Sienna, but this is a masterclass. She jumped back, her face a mask of shock that quickly morphed into defiance. Elena, this isn't what it looks like. It looks like you trying to seduce my boyfriend at our parents' anniversary party. Again. You're delusional, she spat. He came on to me. Stop, I said, my voice calm, terrifyingly steady. Julian, tell her. Julian reached into his pocket, not for a phone, but for a business card. He held it up to the moonlight. Sienna, look at me. Really look at me. She squinted, confusion warring with arrogance. I am James Julian Thorne, senior partner at Thorne & Associates. The silence that followed was heavier than the ocean. I represented Nathan in your divorce. I watched the color drain from her face, leaving her ghostly pale. That's impossible. We have been orchestrating this for 2 months, Julian continued, his voice essentially a gavel strike. Every text you sent, every photo, every conversation. It has all been archived. This is entrapment, she shrieked. I am a private citizen, Julian countered coldly, and you are a woman who destroys people for sport, but the game is over. Maya, Mom, she screamed, trying to pivot to victimhood, but my parents were already standing in the doorway behind me. They had heard enough. We moved the tribunal to a private room off the main hall. I laid it all out, the history, the patterns. Julian produced the file, not just the text from the last month, but the evidence from her marriage, the 5 affairs, the financial malice, the lies. My mother wept, her face buried in her hands. My father stared at the wall, his face a roadmap of regret. Sienna tried to spin it, tried to cry, tried to claim we were bullying her. Enough, my father's voice cracked like a whip. Just stop lying, for once in your life. He looked at the evidence spread across the table. Is this true? All of it? Sienna looked around the room, realizing there was no exit. I just wanted to be happy, she whimpered. You wanted to win, Julian corrected, and you didn't care who you killed to do it. My mother looked up, her eyes red and swollen. You need to leave, Sienna. You need to go. Sienna fled, the sound of her heels retreating down the hallway sounding like the ticking of a bomb that had finally detonated. The drive home was silent, a heavy, exhausted quiet. When Julian walked me to my door, the adrenaline crashed. So, I said, leaning against the frame, mission accomplished. It feels hollow, he admitted. Victory usually does. He took my hand, his thumb tracing my knuckles. But there is one loose thread. What's that? Us. The part where I stopped pretending about halfway through the second week. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'd say it was earlier than that. Then let's do this right, he said, a genuine smile breaking through the lawyer's facade. Dinner, Friday. No wires, no schemes, no sisters. I'd like that. The fallout was nuclear, but necessary. Sienna moved to Seattle 3 weeks later. My parents entered intensive family therapy, finally confronting their role in the dysfunction. And Julian and I, we built something real on the ruins of the fake. 6 months later, I ran into Nathan. He looked healthy, vibrant, the shadows gone from his eyes. He hugged me, and when I told him about Julian, he laughed, a real joyful sound. The lawyer and the sister, he grinned. Poetic justice. A year after the party, Julian proposed on a quiet stretch of beach, far away from the noise of my past. And on my wedding day, as I walked down the aisle toward the man who had helped me reclaim my voice, I received a card from Seattle. You win. I hope it was worth it. I didn't reply. I simply dropped it into the trash can and stepped into the sunlight. Sometimes you have to burn the forest down to let the new growth survive. My sister tried to steal my life, but in the end, she only gave me the map to find the one man she couldn't conquer, and I wouldn't change a single scar. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal or the sweet taste of justice, you know that silence is not an option. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Join our community where we expose the secrets they try to hide, tell the stories they don't want you to hear, and find the strength to fight back. Don't just watch, become part of the movement. Like, share, and comment your story below. You are not alone.